Hey there guys, how's it going, and welcome to my top 5 games of the year for 2011 honourable mentions. Now this is kind of an ironic title because the games that I'm talking about in this video aren't actually in my top 5. However, when I was making my top 5 there was a few games that I thought I really need to talk about, and when I started talking about them in the same video as the actual top 5, I found that I went and talked on for too long about them and it just made the whole video in general too long. So I'd like to take this one to say these are games that aren't in my top 5 but I still consider very good games, so worth a mention. I'd like to talk about them and my thoughts on them. And by the way, when I'm talking about games in this top 5 and this video as well, these are games that I've played myself personally that I've bought and enjoyed. So any games I haven't played or that just weren't my style aren't included. It's not a in general over the whole gaming world what ones are the best. These are just my personal opinion. So let's talk about a few games that were very good but didn't make it into my top 5. First of all, Crysis 2. Crysis 2 is a very good looking game. It plays really well. It's got a good story, a good single player and a solid multiplayer. I didn't enjoy it on console at all, didn't think it handled well. However, on PC it's a really nice handling, sharp, futuristic shooter. They did a lot of things right with that game. A few things that annoyed me and didn't make it so addictive for me personally online, and I don't think it really ended up having a big community of online players, so it was kind of missing that X factor that a lot of the modern shooters have. However, you can't go without saying it looked gorgeous. The single player was fun. It wasn't mind-blowing sort of story, but it was fun to play, a fun shooter for FPS fans and well worth a mention. The next game I'd like to mention is Portal 2. Now Portal's really good obviously because it's something a little bit different to your average game that's out there on the market, and it's really good with the way it creates an atmosphere for the player. That's something that really stands out from Portal from any other puzzle game you might have in the market. It's the whole world that Valve have created there, the Aperture Science Labs, and that really makes the game something a little bit special. It didn't quite make it into my top 5. I didn't complete the single player, wasn't interested enough in it, but I really enjoyed doing co-op with Xbox Ahoy, and I did play some of the single player, and I do enjoy that style of game in general, so another one that's well worthy of a mention. The next game is FIFA 12, again not included in my top 5 because I don't really think it's right to include games which have like a yearly release where it's a sports game, because sports games are, it's the sport. There's not really much they can do. It's not a game with a story so much. Yeah, you could say maybe Ultimate Team is a bit career based, but I don't think it's really right to include a sports game. So FIFA 12 is an honourable mention because it handles very well, it plays really well, it's got a lot of good features. Although some of the features aren't always working too well, especially with the online aspect of things, but I got a lot of game time out of it, even though I've only had it a few weeks now, so well worth a mention for one of the games I've enjoyed the most. The next one, it was really difficult for me not to include this in my top 5 games, and I'm so surprised that it didn't make it, but I had to make a decision based on how much game time I've played, and that's Uncharted 3. Now the Uncharted series is always good. You know you're going to get a good game. When you buy an Uncharted game, you know you're getting a good game. Naughty Dog are just brilliant at what they do. Uncharted 3, it doesn't disappoint. It looks fantastic. It's a real epic storyline. Great characters again, although I'd like to see a little bit more maybe new characters introduced. I'm not so sure. I've got a little bit same old with the same Nate and Sully thing, and the girl, I can't remember what her name is now. But it looked superb, and it just did everything you wanted from an Uncharted 3 game. However, I didn't complete the game, so I don't really think I can say I put enough hours into it to make it one of my top 5 for this year. But an unbelievable action third-person game. If that's the kind of game you enjoy, you definitely have to buy Uncharted 3. It is really a top-class game. The next game is Fight Night Champion, and although this is a sports game, this was one little out of the ordinary. Fight Night Champion was based around the idea that the career mode was you becoming a champion fighter from an amateur who has lots of issues. There's a real dynamic career in this game, and it really makes it stand out from any other sports franchise that I've played before. The story is really good. It has very good characters. Like the character you play is very interesting, and he has a brother, and there's a promoter, and there's a trainer. It's kind of like playing Rocky. I'm sure you can imagine you know, what the Rocky films are like, but it's just really well done, and I have to say, you know, top marks to EA for developing that game in the way they did, not just pumping out another boxing game, actually including the champion part of it, which is, you know, it gets its name from the career mode where you become the champion. It is really very good, and not only that, but the mechanics of the game in terms of boxing are really something special. And it was a little while since they brought out another Fight Night, so I was really pleased with that game. Played it a lot. It's a lot of fun, and the story mode is probably the best sports story mode I've ever played. Final mention for a game that I really enjoyed this year but didn't make it into my top 5 is Marvel vs Capcom 3. Now, I'm a fighting game fan, but I'm not a fighting game player. I enjoy Street Fighter and I enjoy Marvel, but I can't really play them competitively or online, so it's difficult for me to spend too much time doing them because I can't really make videos about them, but they're fun games for me that I can play with friends. I can't really play against top players, so it kind of limits the enjoyment that I can get out of the game, but I do enjoy them when playing with friends. I played a lot of Marvel vs Capcom 3. I made a few videos about it. I couldn't make too many because I'm just not really at the level where making videos makes them entertaining, but it's a fun game for me to play. I enjoy the crazy over-the-topness of the combat. There's lots of fun moves, you know, all the cartoon graphics just look amazing, and I personally find it a lot of fun. People who are professional fighting players, like, would you say fighting players? I can't think that's the right way to describe it. Fighting game players, sometimes they don't really like that game because it's a bit of a button masher, what they're called. You know, someone who randomly mushes buttons can do quite well instead of using actual skill to win the fight. And also when you get to the top level of gaming, it's a very steep learning curve. Like, I'm an okay-ish to newbie player, but I couldn't even possibly play someone who's good at it because the level is just too far, and that's the problem with playing this game online. But it's a good fighter game, and I really enjoyed it. It's a lot of fun, especially with friends, so that's my honourable mentions. So the next video you're going to see from me is my actual top 5 games of the year, and as you can imagine, there's some really good ones in there because the ones I've talked about now are pretty good. So I hope you enjoyed the video. Be sure to like and favourite if you enjoyed it that much. All the ratings and the support really helps me out, helps to drive me to make sure I make even better content for you guys every time I make a video. So yeah, I'll see you guys soon.